All right, we're going to start our third section of this chapter, this unit, and we're going to start by talking about adding integers. So as we've learned already, integers means positive and negative numbers. So we're going to talk about adding positive and negative numbers today. Write that down with your goal or with your page and date. All right, here's your warm-up. That will go away soon. You have 6 problems to do. The first 4 you're adding, just regular integers that are positive. And then you got to be able to name the integer that corresponds to each point. So A and B, you just got to tell me what integer you see there. And here are the answers to your warm-up. The first 4 should have been pretty easy. For 5 and 6, I kind of made a little note for myself. To the left of the 0, I drew an arrow down showing negative. The other one, I drew an arrow to the right showing positive, so I knew them. B is pretty easy because it already had a 5 underneath it. A, you had to count back to -3. So hopefully you were able to get all those correct. All right, let's connect this with a little introduction here. One of the world's most active volcanoes is Kailua in Hawaii. Kailua's base is 9 kilometers below sea level. The top is 10 kilometers above the base of the mountain. So when we're looking at those two things, remember when you see below sea level, that would mean that that 9 is a -9, negative integer, and the 10 is above the base of the mountain, so that'd be a +10. Positive numbers we don't put a plus in front of, we just write the number. So we're going to be working with stuff like this today, and it's a pretty cool picture of a volcano flow there from Kailua. All right, so here's a little note, and I don't care if you write this in your notes or not, but one of the things that we try to do whenever we see negative numbers, especially when it's the second negative number in an order, is we put parentheses around it. That helps to kind of keep them separate, especially when you have a plus symbol and then a minus. So -2 plus -5 or -5, it gets confusing. So if you have two symbols next to each other, try putting parentheses. And I tried to do that as much as I can in the following problems over the next few lessons. All right, this I do want you to put in your notes as a reminder, adding integers on a number line. So basically, if you're moving right on a number line, you're adding a positive integer. If you're going to move left on a number line, you're going to add a negative integer. So going to the right makes numbers larger. Going to the left makes numbers smaller. Make sure you have that down before moving on. All right, let's take a look at some problems now and try to work with adding integers. And with this one, I did a couple number lines to help understand it just a little better. So I'm going to want you to put these two down in your notes, whether you make it with a number line or not, that's up to you. So the blue numbers on the top and bottom have a different meaning than the bottom numbers. The numbers that have a symbol in front of them, like, well, let's get into it. I'll show you. So for A, everything starts at 0. So you find the number that's working from 0. So our first number here that we're going to look at is 5. Well, it's a positive number, so when you go down the number line, you're going down 5. From there, then, the second number says plus -4. So we know that we're going to add, but what we need to add to this 5 is a -4. And because negative is less, that means that we're going to have to backtrack from this 5 4 spots. 1, 2, 3, 4. So because we're adding 5 and then subtracting a -4, your answer ends up being a 1. And it's got a nice little piece here. Now, one of the things I want you to notice here, or something to focus on, is when you add a negative number, think subtraction. So with this one, we had 5 plus -4. Well, if we just got rid of the plus symbol, okay, and we just looked at it as 5 minus 4, you knew the answer is 1. So that can change how you look at numbers. Let's take a look at B then. And we can see here that we're starting from 0 and going negative first. We're going negative 4. So that's where our first number is. Then it says we're going to do plus 7. Well, since 7 is a positive number, that means we're going to go right on the number line. So if we go right on the number line 7 from negative 4, where do we end up? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we end up at 3. So if we were to write this model as a sentence, get out of here, you'll see negative 4 plus 7 equals 3. So another thing I want you to try to focus on is the simple fact that when starting with a negative, you can think subtraction. So what do I mean by that? Well, we know that negative 4 plus 7 gives us 3. So if we were to flip these numbers, because you're starting with a negative number, and just rewrite it as 7 minus 4, doesn't that equal 3 as well? So sometimes you can flip the numbers if one's positive and one's negative to make the math a little easier for you, as long as you're using that negative symbol as a subtraction symbol to get it. All right, here's another model to look at on a number line. So again, we're starting at 0, and it looks like the first number we're doing is a positive 3. So really what we're looking at here is 3 plus negative 5. Now remember what I said, if you see a plus symbol and then a minus symbol, because we have two symbols there, you could get rid of the plus and just think of the negative 5 as minus 5. Now from here, the math can get maybe a little easier for you. So you have 3 minus 5, and you know you're taking away 3 from 5, and you're going to end up with a negative. So let's use red. So if we're at 3 and we go back 5, 1, 2, 3, we're back at 0. 2 more, you're now at negative 2. So 3 plus negative 5, or 3 minus 5, that gives you the same answer, which is negative 2. Making number lines will make it so much easier for you. There's nothing wrong with drawing number lines on the side. I'd even encourage to draw one large number line that you can use repetitively for each problem. All right, now it's your turn. I've done a couple for you. I want you to do these two on your own. Come back when you think you got the right answer. Remember, the first number in the orders that you see are the numbers that start at 0, or the number below the top number. So here are the answers you should have gotten. For A, it's 6 plus negative 3. Again, you can just think of that as 6 minus 3, and you get the answer of 3. So a positive integer of 3. The other one started at negative 2 and added 3. So since we know we're going from a smaller number to a bigger number, you get 1. Whenever the number that is positive is larger in value, absolute value, than the number that's negative, you know your answer is going to be a positive result. Whenever you deal with two numbers where the negative integer has a larger absolute value than the positive number, it's going to be a negative answer. All right, example 2. Here's another way to think about adding integers. So here we have something answer that's, or some direction that says find the sum. We have two negative numbers, negative 3 plus negative 2. Well, all you have to do is think, making each little dot for each number. You have 3 dots and then 2 more dots. They're both negative, so you can use red dots for negative, and you'll see that you get negative 5. The other thing you'll see here, too, is that when signs are the same, move the same direction. And what do I mean by that? They're both negative. So you know that all you have to do is just add 3 and 2, but since they're both negative, you have to keep moving left on the number line to that negative. And if we look at this problem, once it disappears, -2 or -3 plus -2 gives you -5. So here I'm using a number line again to show what 6 plus -8 is. Also used some colored dots up here. The positive numbers I made yellow, so you see there's 6 there. And for the negative numbers, I used 8 red dots. Now, if you put a big square around the numbers that are all equal, the thing that's left out are 2 negative numbers. That's your value. So -2 would be the correct answer. The other thing I want you to see here equals -2. The other thing I want you to see here is between the 6 and the 8, which has a larger absolute value? Well, the answer would be 8, right? But it's a -8. So since the larger number is a negative number, you know your answer has to be a negative answer. Here's another one to look at. So both of these are negative, so all my red dots are, or all my dots are going to be red. So again, we're adding up two negative numbers. So -2 plus -4 is moving to the left in the number line both times, so you get a larger negative number of -6. And one more I want to show you. Here we have a +3 and adding it to a -6. So both have at least 3 that are positive and 3 that are negative. So because negative has a larger absolute value, we know our answer is going to be negative. And so there's 3 left over there, so we know that's how you get -3. All right, I have 5 problems here I want you to try on your own. Come back when you got them. Use a number line. Draw little dots of positive and negative, whatever helps you. Come back, let's see what you get. And you should have gotten 4, -5, 1, 7, -12, and 4. So for the first one, I just switched the numbers, and by switching them, I just thought of it as a subtraction. Worked pretty well. For number 2 and number 5, they both are the same symbols, so you just keep moving the same direction, which is negative. And then for 3 and 4, it was plus negatives. So you can see I scribbled out the plus symbol in the parentheses, and I just did 8 minus 7 and 10 minus 3. And then 6 was just like number 1. I flip-flopped them, got rid of the middle, and 5 minus 1 is 4. Just a couple little tricks on how I can do the math real quick using some of the stuff we learned in the video. All right, example 3 here, we're going to be looking at how you can evaluate expressions. We dealt with this a lot in the previous chapter, where you're given a variable and you're given a number and you have to work through it. So here it says y plus -2. Well, a couple things we already know. Whatever y is going to be, we're going to add a -2. Now, from some of the things we've done already today, you know that you can get rid of the parentheses, get rid of the plus sign, and just think of it as y minus 2. Now, if you read along, it says for y equals 7. So it tells us what 7 is, so we're just going to have to plug 7 in for y. Now, when we do that, we know that we're replacing it to make it 7 plus minus 2, or just think of it as 7 minus 2, and that gives you 5. So you're going to have problems like this where you have to just plug and chug. Here's another one for you where you're looking at z plus -4. Well, we know that z is 2, tells us that. So we're looking at 2 plus -4. So again, you can get rid of the plus part and just think of it as 2 minus 4. Now, since the minus number is larger than the positive number in terms of absolute value, we know the answer has to be negative. So here we have a -2 because the negative number has more absolute value than the positive. All right, go ahead and try these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Try these 6. Every single one of them is going to be n plus -2. So plug and chug the numbers in for n and tell me what you get. Come back when you're done. And here are the answers for these 6 problems. Number 7 was -12. They're both the same signs. They're both negative, so you just keep adding. For 8, we had a 2 and a -2. They had the same absolute value, and they were opposites of each other, so they met at 0. For 9, you had -2 and -2. Yes, they have the same absolute value, but both are negative, so same signs rule comes into place here. Same for 10. Both had the same signs, so we had to make it -17. For 11, it was 12 plus negative 2, so I get rid of the plus part and just look at it as 10 minus 2. I got 10, or 12 minus 2 got 10. And for 12, it's negative 20 plus negative 2, same sign, so keep adding and then put the negative symbol. Hopefully you did well on those. And finally, our last example is a word problem. So you got to read carefully when it tells you certain things in word problems to know if it's a positive or negative number. In this case, it says a sunken ship is 12 meters below the sea level. A search plane flies 35 meters above the sunken ship. How far above the sea is the plane? Well, the ship is 12 below, so that means we're dealing with a negative number below sea level, so that'd be a negative 12. And what we have to do is add to that how high the plane is above the sunken ship. And because it's above, we know it's a positive 35. So here we're looking at 35 and negative 12 being added. And because only one of them has a negative symbol, you can always rewrite this as saying 35 minus 12. Both will give you the same response, or same answer, I should say, which is 23. So then you just, because it's a word problem, have to write it out as a sentence. The plane is 23 meters above the sea. Put it down if you need to in your notes. All right, try this one on your own and come back when you got the answer. And hopefully you got negative 600 feet below. They're both the same sign. They're both negative. That's why I underline them both with red. So negative 100 plus negative 500 is the same as 500 plus 100, putting the negative symbol there. All right, a lot to go through today. And they'll get easier as we go. This is the first one with integers, so I want to make sure we're clear about stuff. All right, so box of thought. Tell if the sum of a positive integer and a negative 8 is greater than negative 8 or less than negative 8. If you don't really know, make a problem and see what you get. Explain how you get it. And give the sum of a number and its opposite. Looking at absolute values, basically. Here's your 5 questions. Good luck. Take your time and show your work if you need to. And that's it for this lesson. A long one, but a lot of stuff you're able to get through. 4 examples. That's impressive. We'll see you next time.